High-definition news for Monday, August 22nd, 2016. I'm Jeff Kaufman.
Super so sorry.
The crack-smoking mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford, may he rest in rest in peace, sorry about that. Apologies. It can be hard to tell if they come from the heart or someplace a little further south. When it comes to saying sorry or sorry not sorry, sincerity is in the eye of the beholder. So behold, Donald Trump last Thursday in North Carolina.
Sometimes, in the heat of debate and speaking on a multitude of issues, you don't choose the right words or you say the wrong thing. I have done that. And believe it or not, I regret it. And I do regret it, particularly where it may have caused personal pain.
Okay, two things. First, after all of his mocking of the president for using a teleprompter, you'd think Trump would rehearse a couple of times so maybe he could sound a little less like, well, somebody who's never even read a speech out loud, let alone off a teleprompter. Second, and not to get all what's he talking about, but what's he talking about? Trump did not specify what comments he was expressing regret about. It was just the start of a busy weekend for the Republican nominee, just 77 days and 14 hours and 58 minutes until the polls opened. Late last week, Trump fired his campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, and gave the job to the head of the right-wing website Breitbart.com. Then in Dimondale, Michigan Friday, maybe with one eye on polls that show his support among African Americans at 1%. Trump made his pitch to Black America.
What do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. At the end of 4 years, I guarantee you that I will get over 95% of the African American vote. I promise you.
By the way, that 58% figure Trump quoted for black teenage unemployment, PolitiFact says the Labor Department puts it at about 18%, double the figure for white teenagers. But we got to keep moving because that's what Donald Trump did this weekend.
I just got back from a tour of the devastation in Louisiana. Perhaps you can tell by the way I'm dressed.
In East Baton Rouge, Trump and running mate Mike Pence handed out relief supplies to a few of the 86,000 people affected by flooding in central Louisiana in what the Red Cross calls the worst disaster to hit the U.S. since Superstorm Sandy whacked the East Coast 4 years ago. Nearly 7 trillion gallons of rain drowned the central part of the state, killing 13 people and flooding people out of their homes. Trump criticized President Obama for not interrupting his vacation to visit Louisiana, but Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards told CNN that a presidential visit too soon diverts resources that can be better spent on search and rescue. President Obama will be in Louisiana tomorrow. Hillary Clinton will be in Southern California tomorrow. She's got a couple of fundraisers in Beverly Hills. Her campaign got into a minor war of words over the weekend with former Secretary of State Colin Powell over Clinton's claim that Powell advised her to use a private email server while she was Secretary of State. Powell said over the weekend that the Clinton campaign is, quote, trying to pin it all on me. He says Clinton had been using her private server for a year before she even consulted him. U.S. Olympic swimmer Ryan Lochte's sorry not sorry has finally morphed into sorry.
I take full responsibility, and I just want the people of Brazil to know how truly sorry I am because I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for myself, for my family, and for my country. I was highly intoxicated, and I'm human. I made a mistake.
But Lochte's apology for originally saying he and 3 teammates were robbed at gunpoint in Rio de Janeiro, they actually were simply asked to pay for vandalism they caused at a gas station. Lochte's apology comes too late for the swimwear maker Speedo. It has dropped its sponsorship of Lochte. It's the first sponsor to drop him. Here's some catch-up for your Monday breakfast. This is some of what might have got past you since Friday. Zika is slowly but steadily gaining more and more turf in America. Here in Southern California, a Ventura County woman just became the 171st person in the state to be infected, and the first in that county. L.A. County has 37 cases, Orange County 12. So far, all of the infections are in people who've traveled to areas where the Zika virus is spreading fast, like Brazil, which is why medical authorities want people coming home from the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro to keep spraying themselves with insect repellent and to keep their sex safe, at least for a few weeks. Mosquito bites and unsafe sex are the 2 ways to get Zika. Florida has about 3 times the number of Zika infections as California, about 600, and got a double dose of the bad news on Friday. In Miami Beach's South Beach neighborhood, 5 new infections and the discovery of Zika-infested mosquitoes there. That means the Zika zone is no longer confined to the city of Miami itself, and that led the Federal Centers for Disease Control to issue this astonishing warning. The pregnant woman should stay away from those 2 areas in Miami and Miami Beach. It is the first time ever that the federal government has told people it is not safe to visit a part of the continental United States because of infectious disease. You know, this decade it's been one public health crisis after another. Ebola, California's measles outbreak, E. coli, listeria, West Nile, meningitis. But the CDC's director, Dr. Thomas Frieden, told CBS News Zika keeps him up at night.
I worry that it'll be difficult to stop transmission once it started in neighborhoods around the U.S. I'm deeply concerned about Puerto Rico, and I'm concerned that we won't have the resources we need to have a robust response, come up with better ways to find the virus and better ways to get rid of the mosquito.
Getting rid of the mosquito is where you come in, because Zika-infested skeeters have already been found in L.A., Orange, and San Bernardino counties. You know the drill. Get rid of any standing water around your place. You cannot do much about a couple of other things that attract mosquitoes. Type O blood, you either have it or you don't, and carbon dioxide. Mosquitoes use CO2 to locate mammals. Japanese researchers have discovered that the mammals that mosquitoes like to locate are beer drinkers. They think it may be because alcohol consumption raises your body temperature, making it even easier for the critters to find you. But the scientists say it'll take more study to find the link between bloodsuckers and suds. Barkeep, slide 2 more beakers of research down this way. The music producer who discovered the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and was sent to prison for 25 years. Those 2 facts are unrelated, technically. Lou Pearlman has died in a Texas prison. In addition to Backstreet and NSYNC, Pearlman also produced the boy bands O-Town, LFO, Take 5, Natural, and the solo act, Aaron Carter. Most of his acts eventually sued him for mismanagement. Separately, he was convicted in 2008 of masterminding a $500 million Ponzi scheme that swindled 1,700 victims. Lou Pearlman was 62. We have lost another of the small group of people who first showed generations of us how to put news on the air in Southern California. Just after World War II, Saul Halpert was discharged from the Army, came home to L.A., and at age 23 got a job in the news department at Channel 7. The job was to help start the news department at Channel 7. 16 years later, he moved to Channel 2, which had just started something revolutionary.
Man's new frontier, the limitless reaches of space. From the world we live in, from the United States of America, from Los Angeles, comes the story of today, the big news.
From the desert to the sea to all of Southern California, a good evening.
The country's first hour-long TV news program, and to say it changed the landscape of television is an understatement. Halpert reported for the big news for 10 years, then did another decade as a political reporter at Channel 4. If you're keeping track, that's 36 years in the trenches of TV news, and in the early years he helped dig the trenches. He also taught journalism for many years at USC and UCLA. He died last Tuesday in Sherman Oaks. Saul Halpert, TV news pioneer, was 93. On Comedy Central's The Nightly Show, host Larry Wilmore always kept it 100. Nielsen gives Wilmore credit for 200,000 viewers on average in the 18 to 49 demographic that late-night advertisers want to reach. That is way down from his show's premiere a year and a half ago. And in total viewers, The Nightly Show has had fewer than half the eyeballs of the show it replaced, The Colbert Report. So it was no surprise when Comedy Central pulled the ripcord last Monday. But on Thursday's final episode, Wilmore got some advice from mentor and executive producer Jon Stewart.
Do not confuse cancellation with failure. And I took that.
And then Wilmore, just before the final credits, explained how he saw The Nightly Show's mission.
Now, before each show, I have a Q&A with the audience, and the number one question I get is, why is your map upside down? And I always say, well, I disagree with your premise. You see, upside down is just an opinion. If you're floating in space, the Earth could take on any orientation. But as a culture, we've all agreed with the opinion that the world should be seen in a certain way. So at The Nightly Show, our chief mission was to disagree with that premise and to see the world in a way and to see the world in a way that may not make everybody comfortable, and to present it with the cast of people who don't always get to have a voice on that.
Actually, when we're at our best, that's not a bad way to describe our mission in this corner of the journalism entertainment industrial complex, when we're at our best. They are the biggest rock and roll band you have never heard of. This weekend, they said goodbye, and a whole country came to a stop to share the moment. Canada's The Tragically Hip burst onto the music scene in 1989.
Like boots or hearts or when they start, they really fall apart. Well, fall apart.
13 albums, most of them hitting number 1 on the Canadian charts, dozens of top 40 singles, concerts, videos, appeals for Canadian causes like the environment and First Nations. Canadians call the band The Hit. Newspapers refer to them as Canada's band. You won't be surprised to learn that the band members are very nice men. Canadians. From Mary Pickford to Dan Aykroyd to Celine Dion to Justin Bieber and dozens of others, Canada has poured a lot of talent into the journalism, entertainment, industrial complex. But the Hit never made much of a dent south of the 49th parallel. It's as though Canadians wanted to keep this band for their own. 2 months ago, lead singer Gord Downie was diagnosed with glioblastoma. It's the most aggressive, fastest-growing type of brain cancer, and there is no cure. After that, the band did something unexpected. They released a studio album and embarked on a sold-out in seconds summer concert tour across Canada, with Downie, who is 52, out front as usual in his sparkly stage costumes and sounding like $1 million Canadian. Saturday night, the Hit played the last stop on the tour at 25,000-seat arena in their hometown of Kingston, east of Toronto. Broadcast live on CBC TV, 2 CBC radio networks, and streamed live online. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was there, not in the front row, but about halfway back, wearing a Tragically Hip t-shirt and telling anybody who'd listen he'd been a fan since high school. The Hit tore through a 3-hour set and 3 encores. The crowd was on its feet and in tears the whole night. Finally, it was Gord Downie's turn. He gave a shout-out to the Prime Minister, thanked his bandmates and their record company and the fans, and then...
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to that. Thanks for listening, period, all right? Have a nice life.
The band says future recordings and tours will depend on Downie's health. The Canadians clearly feel the loss this morning, the day after what they hope will not be the last time they can cheer the Tragically Hip. Now you know what we know. I'm Jeff Kaufman, High Definition News.